And good evening, everyone. I'm Hena Doba in for Elizabeth Vargas. We begin tonight with breaking developments at the White House. Any moment now, President Trump will host a dinner in the East Room with leaders of 5 Central Asian countries, among them Kazakhstan. Sources tell The Hill that Trump is going to welcome the country to the Abraham Accords agreement. That normalizes ties between Israel and other Muslim countries. We will take you there as soon as he starts speaking. But first, travel turbulence at airports across the country, just ahead of the busiest travel season of the year. Starting tomorrow, the FAA will cut flights at 40 major airports. We're talking about some of the busiest hubs: Atlanta's Hartsfield, Chicago's O'Hare, New York's JFK. A source tells NewsNation that reductions will start at 4% on Friday and will then climb to 10% by next week. According to United and American, that will lead to about 200 flights canceled with each of the airlines tomorrow. It's a response to the ongoing government shutdown, now the longest in history. About 13,000 air traffic controllers, 50,000 TSA screeners are working without pay because of it. Some of them can't afford to do that. They're calling out sick. They can't afford the gas to come to work, leading to staffing shortages and big delays. Just today, more than 5,000 delays, 160 cancellations were logged at airports across the country. Vice President J.D. Vance warned today that an aviation emergency is coming as this shutdown drags on. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says if this shutdown continues into the holidays, you will have to fly at your own risk. You heard the Transportation Secretary. It's going to be rough. It's going to get worse. Let's bring in Mark McBurney, now a former air traffic controller and pilot. Mark, good evening. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Hannah. How are you?
I'm great.
For having me.
We're so excited to have you. I just got the news from my team that as we speak, Newark Airport and LaGuardia Airport, one of the busiest, not only in New York, but across the country, are at a ground stop because of the shutdowns. The preliminary list of airports the FAA says will be affected are major international and national hubs like the ones I just mentioned. Have you ever seen anything like this before, Mark?
No, this is unprecedented by far, hitting this many major airports and the reduction that we're going to have in air traffic over the next week, starting at 4% today, and then additional percentages over the weekend. It's just something that we haven't ever seen before.
13,000 unpaid air traffic controllers, American, Delta, United, they are telling us, hey, it's safe to fly. You'll be fine. Customers won't be affected. But how is that possible?
Well, we have redundant safety precautions in the aviation industry. We have the pilot in command for the airplane. They're going to protect themselves, their aircraft, and the people that they're taking. And then also on the ATC side, we have professionals that are in this business. They have tools in the toolbox that they're going to be able to utilize, including reduction in the flights that you're going to see, delayed departures, delayed arrivals, and they're going to be safe, no doubt about it.
Yeah, our team just showed a list of the airports affected. It's a long list. It's busy airports. You heard Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy say the reductions are supposed to help alleviate the pressure on air traffic controllers. Do you think that will help?
You know, it is going to help. These guys have been under stress for quite some time. They're undermanned. They've been undermanned. I know that when President Trump came in, they started adding additional trainees that they were going to do. They were trying to add 8,900 trainees over the next 3-4 years with 2,025. That's going to be delayed. So these guys are under extreme pressure. The workforce is under pressure. And, that's why we wanted to help them out with the GoFundMe that we have going.
I want to ask you about that GoFundMe in just a moment. I want to ask first, Mark, are you concerned about air traffic safety? Do you agree traffic needs to be reduced for safety reasons, the cuts that we're seeing, 10% tomorrow and going into next week?
Well, I heard Nick Daniels, the president of NAPCA, the union for the air traffic control today, and he was saying that they're starting to get resignations, people moving out and ready to go to get other jobs. That's a problem. And yes, I think right now with the controls that are in place, air safety is there. I wouldn't have a problem flying at all. I'm a general aviation pilot, and it would be business as usual right now. Will there be repercussions and ripple effects? Absolutely.
It's hard to predict now, and I know that. But what will happen if the government is still shut down going into Thanksgiving?
It's going to be a major problem. There'll be a lot of people that will probably have to change plans. it's just going to be overwhelming for the system itself, with people trying to get out for Thanksgiving to see their families.
Let's go back to that GoFundMe. Air traffic controllers, they haven't received a paycheck since mid-October. Many people, many Americans across the country are living check to check. You started that GoFundMe page. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, look, I woke up one morning and heard about the air traffic controllers about a week ago. One of the next story that I heard was about Charlie Kirk and the things that he asked himself every morning. Can I make a difference in somebody's life today? How do I add value, and how do I honor God? And this was just one of those things that kind of hit me. I'm an aviation enthusiast, was an air traffic controller formerly, know what these guys are going through, and wanted to make a difference and at least take one stress off of their life. You know, it's not paying rent, it's not paying their car payment, putting kids through school, but let's get them some food, groceries, things like that. We've had the honor of having J.J. Watt be a part of it here in Houston. So it's been a pretty exciting time.
I'm sure they are so grateful to you and what you're doing. What are you hearing from air traffic controllers, Mark? What are they telling you?
You nailed it, Hena. It's I spoke with air traffic control today. I talked with the controllers at Houston Hobby. I talked with a union rep. They ran up the chain what was going on. They're going to be able to accept this, and they're very grateful for any help. So I encourage anybody to get involved wherever they're at and help these guys out.
And if they want to find the GoFundMe page, where can they go?
Yeah, GoFundMe. You can look at it under my name, Mac McBurney, or Feed Houston's Unpaid Air Traffic Controllers. And we appreciate any donation. Everything is going directly to these guys next week.
Well, we appreciate everything you're doing and coming on this show. Mark McBurney, thank you again.
Thanks, Hena. Appreciate the time.
Of course. Let's get reaction from our panel. Batya Ungar-Sargon is the host of Batya on NewsNation, and Chris Cillizza is a NewsNation political contributor and author of So What newsletter on Substack. Both great to have both of you here, friends. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having us.
Hey there. Of course. Let's talk about the shutdown going until Thanksgiving. Possibly, we heard Mark, it might be disastrous for our country. I should mention, and both of you know, there's a big shutdown vote tomorrow. I'll start with you, Chris. What do you think is going to happen there?
Man, I can't imagine it goes until Thanksgiving, but I would say I've not been able to imagine many things that have happened in the last 10 years in politics, so take it with a grain of salt. I don't think there's a deal yet. I would anticipate this FAA cutting 10% of flights. That starts to impact a lot more people. You know, I think one of the issues with the government shutdown is if you live where I live, the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, it's a big deal. You know people who are out of work, et cetera, et cetera. If you know an air traffic controller, maybe, but broadly, it doesn't impact the average person. You start doing flight cuts, it will, and I think that's all aimed at trying to bring them to the table to reopen the government.
I want to pivot just a bit. Batya, we're still waiting for President Trump to speak at the White House dinner any moment. The Hill saying he'll welcome the Kazakhstan leaders into the Abraham Accord agreements that normalizes ties between Israel and Muslim countries. This is a big win for Trump, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Say what you will about his domestic struggles on the foreign policy front. He's been just absolutely crushing it, bringing people together who you wouldn't have expected. And I think this is just another example of that.
Chris, I have to ask you about Nancy Pelosi. Huge news in the nation's capital. She announced today she will retire when her term ends in 2027. She will be 87 years old by then. Your thoughts on her legacy?
I mean, look, the first line is first female speaker ever, right? I mean, that's a gigantic historic accomplishment, Democrat, Republican, whatever. Look, she's been in Congress almost 40 years. I think she is one of the most impactful, important speakers that the House has ever had. I don't mean that as a partisan thing, just in terms of her ability to keep Democrats in line, to return as speaker, right? She won it, lost it, won it. She's a remarkable fundraiser. I mean, I think I say this all the time. She and Mitch McConnell, lots of people don't like both of them, but they are titanic figures of their generation when it comes to Congress. I mean, they are the two most important congressional figures, I would say, in the last 4 decades, non-presidents, right? Most important politicians who never got to be president. I'm not terribly surprised. As you said, she is 85 years old, right? I mean, I think we kind of saw this. She had 2 primary challengers interest. I think she would have won a primary. I just don't think she wanted to. But yeah, I mean, I always say to people, look, sometimes you got to take your own personal feelings about the person and their policies out of it and just say, this is a remarkable career. You either agree or don't agree with what she did, but the longevity and how high she rose is remarkable.
And the tight ship she kept, just within her circle.
Very tight ship.
Very tight. It was very hard to get information unless they wanted it leaked. But I'll always remember that covering the White House. Pelosi's announcement comes as the Democratic Party, Batya, and you report on this a lot on your show. They're doing soul searching. They're looking for a new leader, even after that big election sweep this week. What do you think this means for the future of the Democratic Party?
It's so interesting because they won really big on Tuesday, but in a way, they've only exacerbated their problem because they won really big with Mamdani, who's a far left socialist, and they also won really big with two complete centrist blue dog Democrats. I don't care what the Republicans are saying about them. Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger are as centrist as it comes. And so you had these big victories, one in a blue state where it was blue on blue, and one in these, they're blue states, but they had that kind of almost purple energy because so many people were voting for Trump. Yeah. And so in a way, the Democrats are in an even worse position because which way do they go? Do they go the Mamdani route where all the energy of the base is, or do they go the Spanberger Sherrill route where you can actually get Hispanics to flip back to the Democrats? It's going to be a big question going forward.
Yeah, what does this mean for moderate Democrats? Chris, I see you nodding. I do want to move on to the Justice Department. They're preparing several, and I saw that in many reports, several grand jury subpoenas as part of an investigation into former CIA Director John Brennan. This, of course, connected to his role in the Russian election interference probe. Your thoughts here? Do you think this is just more retribution from the Trump administration?
I mean, look, my view on all these things, whether it's Jim Comey or Brennan, is let's see what they have, right? I mean, like that's how things work in this country. I'm not going to prejudge it, and I always say to people, much to my mother's chagrin, I never became a lawyer, so I'm not going to debate the legal back and forth on it. But let's see what they have, right? Yes, I mean, look, Donald Trump is both his biggest and best ally and worst enemy, right? Like when Donald Trump comes out and says we need to get all these people, it inevitably, you can't forget he said that if and when, when Comey gets indicted, if and when Brennan gets indicted. But we have a court of law, right? We have a judicial branch for a reason. Let's see what they have, and let's see what gets found. We prejudge everything is either, oh, they're definitely guilty, or this is only a witch hunt. Let's see, and then we can go from there.
Logic,
I do expect it, though.
That.
I mean, look, well, I try every once in a while,
All right. On a way lighter note, can we talk about Elon Musk getting $1 trillion pay package from Tesla that makes him richer than all but 20 countries in the world? Batya.
This is really wild. I have to say, $1 trillion. How do you even start to begin to think about spending that? I'll just say this, part of what's happening in MAGA right now is this question of, Donald Trump and Elon Musk do not have a great relationship at this moment, but Musk is making inroads with a lot of the people around him who really want access to that cash. And so there's really a political angle to this as well, because the MAGA movement is propelled by populism. And the populist position in America, I hate to break it to the GOP, 78% of Americans think you should raise taxes on the wealthy. So this kind of, the broligarchs from Silicon Valley who, Elon Musk is the sort of character there, they're really, really fundamentally at odds with the MAGA base in some really important ways, whether it's immigration, whether it's tariffs, or whether it's raising taxes on the rich. I mean, you know what? $1 trillion? We should be taxing the heck out of that.
I couldn't agree more. Chris, last thoughts.
Yeah, so Batya is exactly right when she talks about the Democratic Party not resolving their central question. Is it a populist economic left party, or is it a centrist party? I actually think, to her point about MAGA without post-Trump MAGA, I'm interested to see, because there is the populist piece of that at the core of the base. But there is also Elon and Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance, right? And like, so it's going to be there's a split there too. Yeah. Even throw Marjorie Taylor Greene in there, who's much more in the populist end of that pool than in the kind of techno edgelord end of that pool. It's a very interesting thing to see, like, what does Trumpism and MAGA mean post-Trump? And there's going to be a fight there, too. I think the Democratic one is probably going to be a bigger fight, but I think it's interesting nonetheless.
Especially going into the midterms next year. Batya Ungar-Sargon and Chris Siliza. Always great to see you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Hena.
Of course. See you soon. And coming up, this is a really sad story, a tragic and sudden loss in the NFL. Dallas Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland dies at 24 years old. The disturbing text he was sending to his family before allegedly taking his own life. And later, the teacher shot by her 6-year-old student is awarded $10 million by a jury. That bullet is still lodged in her chest. Is this enough? Her attorneys will join me live. Tonight, there is shock and sadness over the death of Dallas Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland by an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. We're learning more about the player's state of mind in his final hours from police dispatch calls obtained by TMZ Sports. Officers revealed the disturbing text Kneeland was sending to his girlfriend and his family, telling them goodbye. Texas police say they discovered Kneeland's body this morning in an area off Dallas Parkway in Frisco. This grim discovery came hours after he got into a pursuit with state troopers, then crashed his car and fled on foot. The troopers used drones, they used dogs, finally making the tragic find around 1:30 this morning. It was just this past Monday night when Kneeland scored a touchdown in the Cowboys game against the Arizona Cardinals. His team, the Dallas Cowboys, released a statement saying Marshawn was a beloved teammate and member of our organization. Our thoughts and prayers are with his girlfriend, Catalina, and his family. Kneeland was only 24 years old. Let's switch gears now to a move by the White House today that the administration says will help save American lives by slashing the price of popular weight loss drugs like Wegovy and Ozempic, making them far more affordable and accessible to far more Americans. President Trump announced the price cuts today. He was surrounded by executives from pharmaceutical giants like Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. The deals will cut the cost of some of their popular weight loss drugs to less than $150 for a month's supply. Right now, it's over $1,000. That slashes the cost to just 1/9 of what they cost today. The drugs have been difficult for many consumers to afford until now because most insurers don't cover these drugs. But this new deal will extend to Medicare and Medicaid coverage, along with Trump RX that's due to launch next year. Trump touted the move today, along with Dr. Mehmet Oz, his Medicare and Medicaid administrator.
For years, politicians have talked about making health care affordable, but my administration is actually doing it. Americans deserve the best health care in the world, and we're now getting the best health care at the lowest price.
Our estimate, based on the company numbers as well, is Americans will lose 135 billion pounds by the midterms. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives.
Obesity has been linked to stroke, cancer, and more than 40 diseases. But the increased use of these weight loss drugs have markedly decreased the obesity rate in this country. It dropped to 37% of adults this year. That's down from a high of near 40% just 3 years ago. For more, we're joined by Dr. Masa Tehrani, a board-certified rheumatologist, and Will Solomon, former pharmaceutical executive and founder and CEO of the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Will, I will start with you. President Trump said this deal may cut the price of obesity drugs to as little as $150 a month. You heard me say it's $1,000 a month right now. This will be a pill form of the drug. Explain how significant this is for the average American.
This is huge because you got about 12% of the population in the United States now is on a GLP-1 agonist. And remember, in America, about 1 in 5 patients is on Medicare. So it's a big deal. I think the question that remains is, what is it going to mean for commercially covered patients, right? If you're a patient and you're through your employer, you're getting private insurance coverage, it's going to put more pressure on those payers to reduce the cost.
Doctor, many Americans can't afford Wegovy or Ozempic right now. Do you think this deal would change that? And moving forward, with a medical perspective, is it a good or a bad thing? Maybe both.
Yes, I think that hopefully this will increase accessibility. Every other week there's a new indication that comes out about how beneficial these drugs are for our patients, from decreasing heart attack risk and stroke. Recently, they're even looking at arthritis, which is what I treat. So multiple indications. The bottleneck here has been accessibility for patients. And I think hopefully with these lower prices, absolutely. But remember, these are medications. I always advise everyone, diet and exercise should always be first priority. We should not reflexively jump to a medication, but having this option available now will significantly improve the health of our nation.
Dr. Tehrani, let me stick with you for a moment. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy said that the American public will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. Is that an exaggeration, or do you think that will come true by this time next year?
I have seen in my own practice very impressive, massive amounts of weight loss. Sometimes I can't recognize patients. I haven't done the calculation, but that sounds reasonable given the fact that we have 100 million people in the U.S. right now that meet the standard criteria for obesity. So hopefully with those pounds lost, we will see an increase in overall health.
Guys, I do have to end it there. My apologies. President Trump is speaking at a dinner in the East Room with the leaders of 5 Central Asian countries. Let's listen into that.
And Senators Jim Risch and Steve Daines for being here. We have some other people coming in a little while, very distinguished people. I've just completed a series of outstanding bilateral meetings with these leaders in the Oval Office to discuss our ties with this very important part of the universe. We're strengthening our economic partnerships, improving our security cooperation, and expanding our overall bonds. A tremendous amounts of trade was done just in the last little while. Lots of great products, military products and otherwise, are being bought from the United States. We make the best military equipment by far in the world, and they understood it, really have understood it for a while, ever since I've been in office, where we rebuilt completely our military. I want to thank all of the leaders for being here and for their dedication to a strong relationship with the USA. The nations of Central Asia, known as the C5, sit at the historical and geographic crossroads of the world. These nations were once home to the ancient Silk Road connecting East and West. Great history, tremendous, beautiful history. Today, their location in the heart of Eurasia gives them incredible importance and unbelievable potential. Sadly, previous American presidents neglected this region completely. It's an unbelievable region, and by the way, it happens to be an extremely wealthy region, too. But we are fixing that mistake, and I'm committed to making America's partnership with each of these countries stronger than ever before. And I've had a relationship long before this. We've had a great relationship with some of the leaders sitting at the table, and I understand the importance of this region. One of the most important regions. A lot of people don't know that or didn't know that. One of the key items on our agenda is critical minerals. In recent weeks, my administration has strengthened American economic security by forging agreements with allies and friends across the world to broaden our critical mineral supply chains. We had a great relationship and a great meeting with President Xi of China. And we went also, as you know, our new and fantastic Prime Minister of Japan. If you take a look, what we've done is pretty amazing. We were with the president of South Korea. We went to Malaysia and lots of other places and had a lot of meetings while in South Korea. And I think it was a tremendous period of time. We took in at least $2 trillion pouring into our country. There's never been anything like it. We have almost $18 trillion of investment. And by the time we finish out our first year, we probably will have about 20 or 21 trillion, with a T, trillion dollars of investment. And there's never been anything like that in the history of the world, not just the United States. This is really the world we're talking about, nor has anything been close. It's a great honor. I've had a very talented team next to me, but it's a great honor to have that kind of economic power. This was helped greatly by tariffs. It was helped greatly by November 5th, which was the election, presidential election. But our countries and the countries that we're dealing with, they're promoting security, stability, and everything else that you can imagine for the entire world. 3 months ago, my administration also brokered a historic peace agreement between nearby Armenia and Azerbaijan, one of the 8 wars that we ended in 8 months. At that time, 8 months, we're looking to end one more, if that's possible, Russia and Ukraine. We haven't gotten there yet, but I think we've made a lot of progress. As I said at the time, that historic accord includes the construction of the new Trump route. It's such a beautiful thing. They named it after me. I really appreciate it. It's actually a big deal. But it's the new Trump route for international peace. This is a road that's being carved and goes through some of the most important places anywhere in the world, some of the most important places economically also anywhere in the world, which will boost commercial activity on the other side of the Caspian Sea, helping nations throughout Central Asia. I'm optimistic that each of the countries here today will reap the benefits of peace if they embrace the opportunity that we've unleashed with the agreement. Some of the countries we're talking about and some of the countries represented here are going to be joining the Abraham Accords, the Abraham Accord, and that those announcements will be made over the next little while. The Abraham Accords are very sought after right now. We're going to be announcing some very important countries that are joining, and for Jared and for Steve Witkoff, we appreciate the great job you've done this evening. I'm also delighted to report that Kazakhstan has officially agreed, and that's official now, as of about 15 minutes ago. A tremendous country with a tremendous leader has officially joined the Abraham Accords. And I just want to thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor. It's a tremendous honor to have you. Really great. Once again, I'm grateful that each of these respected leaders has made the trip to Washington, and I'm delighted to continue our conversation over dinner. We're going to have a little working dinner, a short one. They've been flying a long way. It's a long flight, but we're going to have a quick but very fruitful dinner. I want to thank the media. You've covered it very fairly, and it's really a great honor to be with these incredible leaders. These are highly respected people, and there's no games. They don't play games.
And you are listening to President Trump speaking at the White House for a dinner with Central Asian countries. Let's bring in NewsNation White House correspondent Kelly Meyer live in D.C. in front of the White House. Kelly, good evening. What are we learning about this dinner? The Abraham Accord, that's a huge deal for the president.
Yeah, and moments before he went into this dinner, the president did post on Truth Social about a call that he had with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And then he also said that it was on the phone with Kazakhstan, the president there, saying that that is the first country of his second term to join the Abraham Accords. He said the first of many. And that's what he touched on there as he was speaking at this dinner, that there could be more to come. And that's a focus for the president. It was a focus when we were on the trip with him to the Middle East of getting more countries on the Abraham Accords to join the Abraham Accords. And he said, quote, this is a major step forward in building bridges across the world. So he has those central leaders, the C5 Central Asian leaders there at the table. He also had by him, you could see there, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, his Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Vice President J.D. Vance, along with 2 senators, Steve Daines and Jim Risch. He also had his ambassador to India, Sergio Gore, and Rick Grinnell on the U.S. side of the table. I don't know if they're going to take any questions. They could be going around with interpreters at this moment. The cameras seem to be staying inside. The president said it's going to be a short but fruitful dinner. He said they traveled a long way and will be tired, but they're going to get into this. So we'll see what more comes out of this dinner or if any questions are taken by the president from the press. But a major focus there on growing the Abraham Accords, adding another country to that, and many more to come, the president says. Hena?
Our Kelly Meyer standing by at the White House with this breaking news. Kelly Meyer, thank you so much. I do want to switch gears a bit now to a story out of Virginia. $10 million. That's how much a jury awarded a teacher in Virginia today who still has a bullet lodged in her chest after her 6-year-old student shot her 2 years ago. You may remember this case. Her name is Abigail Zwerner. She was seeking $40 million in the civil suit against her former assistant principal. Zwerner accused Ebony Parker of failing to act despite multiple warnings that the student, with a disturbing history of violence, had a gun. Zwerner spent 2 weeks in the hospital. She underwent 6 surgeries. It wasn't safe for doctors to remove the bullet. To this day, it is lodged right near her heart. During very emotional testimony, Zwerner recounted the moments after she was shot at the reading table in her first grade classroom. The criminal case against the ex-administrator is set to begin later this month. Abigail Zwerner is not speaking publicly tonight, but her lawyers are. Joining us now are attorneys Diane Toscano and Jeffrey Bray. Thank you so much for making time for us today. I know it's been a busy day. We appreciate you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Of course. Jeffrey, I will start with you. First, how is your client doing? How is Abby doing tonight?
She's with her family. She's happy. She's relieved. She's relaxed. A lot of pressure over a lot of months. And so just to have this done and have it done well, I think she's very, very happy to be with her sister and her mother and the rest of her family. You know, after hearing that testimony, that's absolutely what she deserves. Diane, you said today you're very happy with the verdict, but you were originally seeking $40 million in damages. Does $10 million, is that sufficient for all the pain that Abigail is enduring and will continue to throughout her life?
And that's a great question. Right now, we are still dealing with post-trial motions after the jury verdict. So we do come back in front of the judge who will then issue a judgment for that verdict. So at this time, I'm not going to get into a lot about the amount that was awarded, but I can tell you, Abby was so glad to be able to get this before a jury, to get this trial heard, and we were very happy with the verdict coming back in her favor.
And Jeffrey, it took a long time to get here. Your team has been waiting for justice. This shooting happened 2 years ago. Do you have any concerns that the ex-assistant principal could appeal the decision that was made today?
First of all, it's 2 years and 3/4 of another year. And I would expect an appeal. I think the school board and its lawyers and the insurance carriers have made a decision that, quite frankly, most of the people in Newport News disagree with. I thought this case would have been resolved after 2 years of litigation. It was not. And so if there is an appeal, I think the law is on our side. The judge thought the law was on our side. That's why we're here in a jury trial for damages. And so I'm not going to be worrying about what they do on appeal. They do what they need to do, but we'll be ready to arm ourselves to get ready to fight the fight.
Jeffrey, I want to go back to something you said before, that this was the first televised civil case, at least that you know of. Why was that important to do, and what kind of precedent do you hope it makes going forward?
Well, first of all, we were talking about Virginia and the televised cases. And I just think the significance of this shooting in a school where teachers, children, other people around the school were all at risk. And I think the significance is the fact that we need to make school security the most important thing we can do for our children and our teachers. And I think this judgment today from this jury tells administrators across the country, make safety the most important thing in our school so that kids can get an education and teachers can be safe.
Yeah, I've been following this case and what's been going on in the courtroom, and that's exactly what you two were displaying there to the jury. Diane, the criminal case against the ex-assistant principal, that's set to begin later this month. How do you hope this verdict will go into that case or will lead into that case?
I'm not weighing in on that case. That's something that the prosecutors and the criminal defense attorney are going to handle. I will tell you, Abby is a witness in the case, so we will be there one of those days. She'll be testifying as a witness, but she's not the actual victim of that case. So I'm not going to weigh in on what happens and what should happen in that criminal case. I'm focused on the fact that we took this case to trial for Abby, her civil lawsuit, and we got a verdict in her favor, and we're very happy about that.
Fair enough. Jeffrey, the civil case focused a lot on Zwerner's mental anguish, her physical pain. We heard it in that testimony. You said a lot of this was foreseeable. How should schools learn from this incident with your client?
Well, first of all, I think school security, whether it's an individual shooting event like this one or the mass shooting events, which have done so much damage to our country, this needs to be a focus. Teachers need to be able to come to school. Students need to be able to go to school, and parents need to understand that we're getting an education and we're not going to worry about our children in a school atmosphere. So administrators around the country now need to understand they can be and will be held accountable. And that's what this jury told them. And so the responsibility falls with them. This verdict from this jury told everybody in the country, let's make safety first and get back to doing what we do in the schools, which is teach the children in a safe environment.
Diane, there's also an interesting twist that if the assistant principal is found guilty in the criminal trial, insurance may have a case to get out of paying Zwerter the $10 million in the civil case that was decided today. Do you have any concerns about that?
I really don't. We don't feel that that is a real concern. They've been fighting us at every turn about this case, and we're confident that we're going to be able to get a judgment against the insurance company.
I asked your partner the same thing, but what do you hope this case, what kind of precedent do you hope this case sets?
I hope that the schools across the nation are on notice that we have to take any type of threat serious. If there's a concern that there's a possibility that there's a gun on campus, then we need to investigate it and get to the very bottom of it. And I hope that this case sends that message so that all of our teachers, all of our students are protected in school. It's a shame. There are school shootings that can't be prevented. Nobody knows in advance. So when you have a case like this, where those facts are there, the concerns are there, and nothing's done, it's just unacceptable. And hopefully all the administrators, all the schools now understand that something will be done.
Well, we are certainly thinking of Abby tonight. I remember this case from 2 years ago, and it really is just very eerie, and I'm glad it worked out for her. Diane Toscano and Jeffrey Brait, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And coming up, an apocalyptic scene after a UPS cargo plane crashed in Kentucky. Was the plane simply too old to fly? We'll talk to a pilot who has flown old planes before about what he thinks. And remember to download our NewsNation app for the latest news on top stories of the night. We will be right back. This was the apocalyptic scene as a UPS plane came crashing down at Muhammad Ali Airport in Louisville, Kentucky. A fireball erupting as the plane made contact with the ground. 13 people have died, including a child. 3 of the people who died were on the plane. The rest of the deaths occurred on the ground. We're getting new information tonight about what was going on with that aircraft in the weeks and months leading up to this crash. We know that the plane was a 34-year-old McDonnell Douglas cargo jet. It had undergone 6 weeks of extensive maintenance at a facility in San Antonio, Texas, which wrapped up just under 3 weeks back. The NTSB was asked about those repairs just this afternoon.
We are aware that this aircraft was there in San Antonio. We have actually started to pull those records down. We have a specific group that has experts in not only maintenance but repair, job cards, and all of the requirements of that. We're currently downloading that information and going back, and we will actually, as part of the investigative process, we will go back even further from that to get additional pertinent details about certain inspections and checks based on the age of the aircraft. And we will move forward and we will look at every piece of maintenance that was done, even from the San Antonio time all the way to the date of the flight.
We should mention there is no consensus among aviation experts that the plane was too old to fly. But there's little doubt there were major mechanical issues going on under the hood. The left engine literally fell off the wing upon takeoff. The plane came down just moments after it reached an altitude of 500 feet. Here's a satellite image. It shows debris half a mile long, with the plane destroying everything on the ground that was in its path. Joining us now is someone who is not only an aviation expert, he is an actual Airbus pilot. He has amassed a big following online. Vincent, or Vinny, the pilot, as many people know him, join us tonight. Vinny, welcome.
Thank you, Hena, for having me. Good evening.
Of course. What do you make of the new details we learned today? Anything surprising from the NTSB?
Surprising, no, not really. First and foremost, I'd like to extend my condolences to all the victims, all those parties involved. And unfortunately, I think this, not just the circumstances surrounding this accident, but the images that we see are going to leave an indelible mark on not only the aviation community, but really the entire general public. As far as the age of the aircraft is concerned, I myself fly airplanes regularly that are over 25, 26 years old, but I don't think necessarily we need to look at the age of the aircraft. For instance, the military has really, really old planes. They're still flying in service. The KC-135, the B-52s, 50 plus years old, right? Generally, civil aviation, 737-200, 767-200, Airbus freighters, they're over 40 years old. So I think what is going to be most germane, and you just showed the images of Todd Inman this afternoon at the press briefing describing, is what transpired during those 6 weeks in San Antonio when the plane was undergoing the maintenance. And I think that's what they're going to comb through. Really, they're going to really dig into that block of maintenance to see if anything there is telling.
As I said a moment ago, the left engine just fell off. As NTSB says, they found several engine fan blade fragments and main components of the #1 engine. What does that mean? What do you think they'll find when they examine the parts? What do you think happened here, Vinny?
Well, look, it's clear the left engine separated from the airframe during takeoff. Now, I think what they're going to be looking for is probably whether or not it was an internal failure of those fan blades or a disc inside that caused the structural failure, which then allowed the engine to separate, or if it was external to the core of that engine. And by that, I mean, did the nacelle separate from the pylon? Did the pylon separate from the wing itself? The pylon is the intermediate structure that connects the engine pod to the wing. So if you think back to American 191 and 79, that pylon separated from the wing and caused a lot of damage, which caused that accident. So I think they're going to be looking at the specifics of how it failed and if the internal failure might have caused it to separate.
You don't think age of the plane was a factor here?
I don't. I think planes, they have an enormous lifespan if they're maintained properly. And like I said, I fly fairly older aircraft, and there are many, many aircraft still in service with many more years on them.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I will assume that the weight of the cargo had nothing to do with it, only because this plane was made specifically for that. It was a UPS plane.
It was a UPS plane. It is a cargo hauler. All AMD-11s now have been appropriated to cargo flying. None of them are in passenger service anymore, to the best of my knowledge. But yeah, they're built to haul heavy loads really far. It's the largest tri-jet in existence.
Vinny, you said you think this crash is going to shake up the industry. Tell me why.
I just think that it's going to send waves through. I mean, when you have images as detailed as this in such close proximity to the scene like this with this much devastation, I think that's going to really reverberate through the industry and, again, just the general public. I think it's horrific and it's tragic and it's sad.
Investigators, we know, are reviewing CCTV footage from the airfield right before the crash. What do you think they're looking for, and what do you think they'll find?
From the CCTV footage that I saw, I think they're looking, again, what I saw initially was that engine had separated. Now, I don't know that there's much that I can gain from that CCTV footage other than the engine separating from the wing and that fire being indicative of that there was nothing to contain it. It seemed like fuel was being poured just into nothing, right? I think that Todd Inman said the FDR, the flight data recorder, which records more than 400 some odd parameters internally, and the CP were both recovered. I think they were both overnighted back to NTSB headquarters, and I think that they're going to be downloaded. He said the downloads were good, auditioned, and they're going to have transcripts sooner rather than later. So hopefully they find some answers as to what happened from inside the aircraft.
Well, Vincent, we hope you come back to talk to us about it. Really appreciate your insight tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. And coming up, Dr. Mehmet Oz was in the Oval Office when this happened today. He's on Cuomo tonight. And Chris will join me live to talk about this and so much more. We will be back. Welcome back, everyone. President Trump's announcement today on slimming down weight loss drug costs was interrupted by a drug executive. You see it there. He fainted. Dr. Mehmet Oz jumped to the rescue, and now he's about to jump to Cuomo in just a few minutes. Chris Cuomo joining me now. Hello. Chris, what are you going to ask him? And I'm also curious. Ooh, I love the glasses, by the way. You're a fitness guy. I'm curious what you think about these weight loss drugs.
Look, this is a bone-headed move politically. I don't know what happened with that guy on the stage. I'll ask Dr. Oz. Dusty was joking with me earlier today that it seems like Dr. Oz has been showing up where people have been fainting for like 25 years. It is true. He does have a tendency to get involved and help people. It's one of the reasons people loved him so much on his show. But the Ozempic is tone deaf. That is not affordability. That's not a thing, okay? That's not what people are complaining about, all right? If people don't have diabetes and they don't have a real health problem, Ozempic is not a must, you know? Eating less and moving more is. That's not why people are angry in our country right now, because they can't get Ozempic, okay? So I'm going to take you through what affordability means and how it's being played with and how it will come to pass in the midterms. I'll bring in Oz to talk about this and what you should be doing with the real drugs that matter, and we'll get going on it.
I'm looking forward to it. It's time for Cuomo. I'll see you tomorrow on Vargas.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.